Hey, what's going on, Steelers Nation? Welcome back to another video. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. But let's get right into it. Main topic of this video is going over the Steelers season, highlights of it, but mostly player statistics, where they ranked, and all the above. I mean, obviously, offensive-wise, we wish we had a better season. Defense as well. I know we lost a lot of key components to the defense, especially the defensive line, not having Tuitt this year, or Alualu after, I think, he broke his leg in week 3, something like that. So a lot of big shoes to fill there this season. I thought Adams, when he got picked up, played pretty well as Buggs, too. I mean, Buggs filled the role pretty good as well. And Wormley, too. Got to give it to Wormley for that. But let's talk about some of the main guys here. Let's talk about Big Ben Roethlisberger and what looks to be his final season of his career. This season, he played in 16 games. He had a total of 3,740 yards, which ranked 15th among all quarterbacks in passing yards. He also had 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on the season. One thing that I do want to note is that he was sacked 38 times this year. If I'm not mistaken, I think last year he was at 11, and that was just because, again, the offensive line wasn't that great either and had to get the ball out quick. Again, this season, it was a lot worse for him, as we all saw. He had a passer rating of 86.8 this year as well. Another key highlight, Najee Harris this season. Let's talk about his rookie year. He played in all 17 games this season. Obviously, as we saw in yesterday's game, it did look like he had some kind of arm injury that was not, that was affecting him for carrying the ball. We'll see how that goes into Sunday night's game against the Chiefs, but hopefully it's not a big concern, and we're just going to pray for him. But Najee Harris had a great season this year. In his 17 games, he rushed for 1,200 yards, which ranked 4th among all running backs. He also had 7 rushing touchdowns. Along with that, he had 74 receptions for 467 yards and 3 additional touchdowns on top of that. He also did not fumble the ball this year. He made a lot of great plays this year. As we see, Najee Harris is the real deal. All we need to do is actually have an offensive line for him, and he could be one of the top running backs in the league. He kind of proved it already that he has the capability of doing that. Just need to have the big guys up front blocking for him. And then when it comes to wide receivers, I think DJ was definitely the best wide receiver on the team this year. He played in 16 games this season, had 107 receptions for 1,161 yards. 8 touchdowns, 5 rushes, 2 for 53 more additional yards. He did have 2 fumbles on the season, which one was costly. It was in that overtime game against the Lions that we ended up tying in. But other than that, when you look at his season from last year to this year, he definitely improved with not dropping the ball. I know as of late, in the later part of the season, he was dropping more balls. I think he had 2 going into the halfway point of the year. I think he finished with 6 this year, but he led the league last year with I think he had 12 drops last season, which was absolutely ridiculous. So definitely an improvement, something in his game that needed to change, and he did work on it this season. So kudos to him with that. Now let's talk about the defense. Obviously, my top 2 picks for defense this year are the 2 Pro Bowlers that we have, and that's got to be TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward. Those guys definitely helped a lot with the defensive line. Between the 2, they had 32.5 sacks. Obviously, 22.5 of them coming from TJ Watt, who tied Michael Strahan's record yesterday in that game with his sack that he had. I still think that he should have gotten credit for the first one that he had against Huntley when that fumble happened, but I think at that point, I think Huntley turns into a runner, which is why that wasn't considered a sack. So I don't know. I wonder if they'll correct that or not, but that's what I have here. When it comes to pass deflections, he had 7. Forced fumbles, he had 5. Tackles, 64. 21 of them were tackles for a loss. I mean, this guy was just dominant all year round. Obviously, when he played in those games, he only played in 15 full games this year. Or technically started 15 games. He really only played in probably what would have summed up to about 14. So he did miss 3 games. Imagine if he was on the field for those 3 games too, after having that groin injury against Cincinnati. And then there's Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward, again, had a great season, played all 17 games, had 10 sacks this year. 9 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, and 1 interception. Big man had an interception this year too. He had 89 total tackles, 15 of them were tackles for a loss. So those are my main guys that I wanted to emphasize on. I know our DBs, we got to give them some credit too. Cam Sutton had a pretty good season. He was back and forth though. Joe Hayden, when he was in, he was pretty effective. Minka, Terrell Edmonds, I got to give him more credit where it's due. I think he stepped up a little bit this year. It is also a contract year for Edmonds as well, so watch out for that. But overall, team finished 9-8-1. I predicted in the beginning of the season that they would go, 9-7-1. In the beginning of the season, I predicted that they would go 11-6 or no lower than 9-8. So again, fits right into those expectations. Najee Harris too. I also predicted that he would have 11 to 1,200 yards rushing this season, and he hit 1,200 on the dot. So I would say that, I was pretty close with predictions this year. But overall, I'm not complaining. I don't think many of us really expected to make it to the playoffs, at least the way that the season started. So I'm happy with how this team, continued to keep playing and didn't give up. Obviously, it's going to be a tough game against the Chiefs. I'll make a video about that. But going into the game right now, the Chiefs are a minus 12.5. So definitely big favorites, which they should be. They destroyed us when we played them a couple weeks ago. But again, we'll see what happens any given Sunday. That's going to be a Sunday night game to 8:15 on prime time. So let's just hope for the best. But those are some of the season stats that I wanted to go over. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching these videos. It means a lot to me. I can't wait for the day that I get monetized, but we're getting there slowly but surely. We'll get there. Everybody have a good day, and here we go, Steelers.